Antenatal management of pediatric surgical conditions. It is an interesting topic and we will discuss about it. We also call it as a maternal fetal surgery, and it has evolved over 3 decades. Initially, it was just a thought, and now it is a full-fledged multidisciplinary medical specialty. And all this is possible because of the advances in fetal imaging by which we can identify complex fetal anomalies. The stratification of severity has been carried out over last 3 decades by analysis of data, and because of which surgeons, fetal specialists, and parents can take informed decisions about pregnancy and delivery plans. In selected cases, prenatal intervention can be considered to prevent organ damage, and we'll discuss about that. Now, what has changed over last 3 decades? So we are moving away from anatomical repair to physiological manipulation. By meaning what? Is something which we were doing by open hysterotomy, open laparotomy to the mother, then open hysterotomy. We are trying to do it by fetal endoscopic procedure or image-guided percutaneous procedure. And by doing this, we are able to decrease problems with the wound healing of uterus, need of cesarean delivery, and risk of preterm delivery. And all this is possible because of innovations which have been done over last 30, 35 years in fetal imaging, fetal genetic diagnosis, maternal tocolytic strategies to decide to decrease the preterm labor. Fetal medicine program, is it important and why at SRCC? So at SRCC, we have large team of specialists who are dedicated to mother and child. We need multidisciplinary team approach of the entire team, which includes obstetricians, perinatologists, fetal medicine consultants, geneticists, pediatric radiologists, neonatologists, pediatric surgeons, anesthetists, cardiologists, cardiac surgeon, neurologist, neurosurgeon, and all possible consultants who we need in perinatal period are present at SRCC under one roof at any given time. In addition, there are definite indications of intervention which we'll discuss. Now, key to success for any multidisciplinary team is effective collaboration and communication, which is present at SRCC. Formalization of communication by frequent multidisciplinary team, and then they discuss and give a plan to the family, and family takes the informed decision. We have all available equipment which is needed for taking care of newborn, and we have adequate access for fetal scopic and fetal guided, image guided procedures at SRCC. We have level 3C neonatal ICU, and we have team which can discuss the success and failure, and by experience of this procedure we can advance. We have team leaders and case coordinators for each condition. So broadly, if I have to say management of fetal anomalies, there are 5 broad headings. The defects which can manage by elective abortion, something which can be corrected after term delivery, the defect which needs cesarean delivery, and defect which needs induced preterm delivery. And in some patients, fetuses, we can intervene and do fetal surgery, though that number and indications are very small. Elective abortion, as you can expect in anencephaly, holoprosencephaly, if there are severe chromosomal anomalies, if there is bilateral renal genesis, infantile polycystic kidneys, all these conditions cannot survive after birth, and it is better to terminate. The defects which can be managed best by after term delivery, it includes large subset of conditions which we see, including esophageal and duodenal and intestinal atresias, all GI conditions, neurology, unilateral and bilateral hydronephrosis, multicystic kidney, In neurological conditions, meningocele, hydrocephalus, sacrococcygeal teratoma, hepatoblastoma, cystic hygroma, teratoma, cysts in ovary, mesenteric polydoccle, all this can be managed well by either single or few operations, and they should not be terminated. Each termination has a psychological trauma to the entire family, and we don't know whether the same family or couple will have second pregnancy which will be normal. So as far as possible, we try to conserve each and every fetus as far as possible. Defects which may lead to cesarean delivery includes conjoined twins, giant amphilocyl, ruptured omphalocele, gastroschisis, severe hydrocephalus, large ruptured meningomyelocele, large teratoma, cervical cystic hygroma. All these conditions which cannot be delivered normally should undergo cesarean delivery. Defects which can be treated by induced preterm delivery. Now in this condition, basically by continuing pregnancy, if the organs are going to damage, then you take a call and do preterm delivery. Now some of the obstructive hydronephrosis, particularly bilateral one, not the unilateral one, obstructive hydrocephalus, where it is going to give trauma, progressive trauma to the development of the brain, omphalocele, which is ruptured, or gastroschisis, volvulus, if there is definite, then one may consider. So all these conditions where you think by doing early preterm delivery, we can save the fetus, one may consider that. Then there are potential defects where by intervention, we can save the organs, like in a posterurethral valve with oligohydramnios, cyst adenomatoid malformation leading to hydrops fetalis. If there is a large diaphragmatic hernia with pulmonary hypoplasia, if there is a large sacrococcygeal teratoma, twin-to-twin transfusion syndrome, in all these conditions, one may consider fetal intervention. Now, continuing with that, so all this we have discussed, PUR, CDA, sacrococcygeal teratoma, CCAM, all this can, in a subset of the patient, it may be beneficial to do fetal intervention. In myelomeningocele, fetal repair decreases the chance of requirement of the hydrocephalus, and it preserves the movement, or it decreases the paraplegia or paraparesis, the chances and severity of that. And many places they have started doing antenatal procedures. Now we will discuss some of the conditions where the fetal intervention is required. So one of them is congenital diaphragmatic hernia. Now the management entirely depends upon how bad is the hypoplastic lung. If the hypoplasia is mild, then almost 100% survival is there. If there is reversible pulmonary hypertension, majority of them will survive. In a severe fixed hypoplasia, the survival is poor, and this is the subset which we need to identify and manage antenatally. So there are basically two ratios which we see: lung to head ratio and observed versus expected lung to head ratio. If the liver is in the chest, the prognosis is poor. Now in LHR, if it is less than 0.6, there is no survivor. And if the LHR is more than 1.35, majority will survive. So the range between 0.6 and 1.35 may need something more to be done. Now continuing with that, observed versus expected LHR. So if that is less than 15%, they are not going to survive and they should be terminated. Someone who has over 45%, they have mild hypoplasia and they will survive, so they don't need anything to be done. So something which is in the range of 15 to 45% may need fetal intervention. So we advise the family, if the LHR is less than 45%, I mean more than 45%, deliver at a center where the pediatric surgical treatment is available and good newborn care is available. If LHR is less than 15%, then the termination should be carried out. In all fetuses, whether it is diaphragmatic hernia or any other anomaly, But if they have genetic disorder or fatal cardiac or other anomalies, they should be terminated without a second thought. Now, if the LHR is between 15 to 45%, if we do fetal intervention, then we can improve the survival to almost 60 to 80%. So what are the fetal intervention available today? In diaphragmatic hernia, one can do open surgery on fetus, repair the diaphragm. The second possibility is by doing tracheal occlusion using metal clips. And third is tracheal occlusion by silicone balloon catheter. And the type C is preserved because it can be done endoscopically. So it also known as the fetal endoscopic tracheal occlusion. So in one of the paper published, the conventional management at 20% survival. By doing fetoscopic procedure, the survival improved in 49%. Now this we are talking about the patients who have a severe pulmonary hypoplasia. Now the procedure generally is done under regional anesthesia or local anesthesia plus sedation. And with experience, one can cut down the time from 1.5 hours to 15-20 minutes. The problem with any fetal intervention includes premature rupture of membranes, and that should be explained to the relatives well. Now, whenever you put any balloon, you have to remember we need to take it out, and it can be done by using either percutaneous sonography or another feto procedure, or at the time of delivery, one can do tracheoscopy and take it out, or you can do exit procedure. The second condition which we need to discuss is congenital pulmonary airway malformation. Now, in this, basically, we will be discussing CCAM, congenital cyst adenomatoid malformation. And what is important is the volume in CC by head circumference, and also known as CVR. Now, what is the natural history of CPAM? So the growth is unpredictable between 18 to 26 weeks, and it is very rapid. And at this time, they need a close supervision. It reaches peak at around 25 and 26 weeks, and then either it becomes stable or it shrinks in size. We have to look for fetal death and hydrops in this period, which is 18 to 26 weeks. If CVR is more than 1.6 weeks, then the fetus has high risk of development of hydrops and death, and they should be observed 2 or 3 times in a week using sonography. If CVR is less than 0.25, they have better prognosis. Now, most of the macrocystic CCAM may remain unchanged, but the microcystic variety will shrink in size. So antenatal management of CCAM. So in a stable fetus without hydrops, there is no need of doing anything particular. You can resect this after delivery. So stable fetus without hydrops. And if postnatally his child is doing well, we may operate at the age of around 2 months, unless the child is not maintaining the saturation. In high-risk lung lesion, fetus should have 2 to 3 sonography per week, which I have already discussed. And in a small lesion, you can have weekly sonography. In antenatal management, we have few options, which includes fetal thoracotomy and lobectomy. So if fetus is less than 32 weeks, and if there is no dominant cyst, then this is the way one may treat it. If we have a dominant cyst in a less than 32 weeks gestation, who has some signs of hydrops, then one may put a shunt. And if after 32 weeks, one can do ex utero intrapartum treatment. We will discuss about that later part. What is exit procedure? Survivor following the prenatal intervention. If you do open fetal surgery, it is about 50%. And if you were to put the shunt, it is about 75%. And if for the exit delivery, it is almost 89%. There are some reports of sclerotherapy in CCAM. The third condition which we are discussing is sacrococcygeal teratoma. When we detect it antenatally, one has to do alpha-fetoprotein levels If it is high, then it is suggests possibility of sacrococcygeal teratoma and it can be picked up on sonography. The postnatal treatment is simple surgical excision along with the coccyx. Now on antenatal scan, when we see sacrococcygeal teratoma, one has to see the size of the tumor. Small size has a good prognosis. Large size can have hydrops and polyhydramnios and may need intervention or early delivery. If it is cystic or fluid filled, less likely to develop hydrops as compared to solid tumor. One can do fetal echocardiography to see whether the fetal heart is functioning normal or it is functioning very high. If it is functioning too high, then they can have heart failure and hydrops. Some of the mother can have hyperdynamic circulation like preeclampsia and also known as maternal mirror syndrome, which is more or less irreversible condition. Now, this family should be counseled. If the tumor is large, then cesarean section has to be done at the time of delivery. And it should be done in a place where the pediatric surgical expertise is available. If the tumor is large, then one has to do close follow-up, especially between 18 and 28 weeks, that the fetus may develop heart failure and hydrops. Maternal preeclampsia, if it is present, it is irreversible and may need early intervention. Fetal intervention before 32 weeks may be advised to reverse otherwise fetal heart failure. And after 32 weeks, early delivery with intensive management. What are the different ways you can do fetal intervention? One can do minimally invasive surgery to disrupt the blood supply of the tumor using RFA or laser, or you can do open fetal surgery. The fourth condition, which all of us see very frequently, includes hydronephrosis. Now it can be unilateral or bilateral. So unilateral, it is PUJ, and what one needs to see is whether the epidiameter of the renal pelvis. The epidiameter, if it is more than 4 millimeter in first trimester, 7 in second, and 10 in third, then it is significant, which needs to be followed up even postnatally. The rest you see whether it is unilateral, bilateral, echogenicity, dimension of the ureter, bladder, and the amniotic fluid, because all this will decide what kind of management we are going to do. But in unilateral PUJ obstruction, the family should be counseled that the deliveries can be done at birth, at the term, and postnatal follow-up should be done. Many of them, not many, but some of them will definitely need one surgery known as laparoscopic pyeloplasty, and the results are gratifying. So today we will say any child who has a PUJ obstruction, especially unilateral, one should not think of termination, one surgery and child will be fine. In case of bilateral hydronephrosis, and if there is hydroureter, it can be because of the megaureter or obstruction beyond bladder neck in the posterior urethra. And some of the patient with prune belly, urogenital sinus and pelvic tumor also can have similar problem. So in case of bilateral hydronephrosis, one can do fetal vesicocentesis and fetal urine analysis. This is particularly when the child is oligohydramnios. And on that, if we think that above indices, which we have mentioned, sodium, calcium, osmolarity, microglobulin, and protein level, if it's suggestive of good renal function, then one can consider vesicoamniotic shunting, in utero endoscopic ablation of valve, or in utero catheterization of bladder, or early delivery, depending upon the multiple factors. Now, this is one of the patients where we did fetal intervention in form of fetoscopic PU valve ablation. So that is the fetoscope which has entered the bladder. That's the bladder neck. This was done at 22 weeks where the child did not add any urine or rather he had oligohydramnios and the bladder was full. So what we are seeing is we are going through the bladder, that is verumontanum, And anterior to verumontanum, on the anterior side, we will have the obstructive valves. So that is the posterior wall, PU valves, verumontanum, and we will go anteriorly to identify where the urethra will be, and we will make a cut. So this is a laser fiber opening up the obstructive area. Of course, this is a edited film, so it appears relatively easy, but it is a highly technical job, and you need uh, team of good sonologists and pediatric surgeon to carry out such procedure. So we can see nicely the urethra and the procedure were completed. This child was delivered, now is 6 weeks, 6 months old, with creatinine of 0.5. It needed multiple procedures at the end of, after delivery. So this is keyhole sign, dilated ureter scope, which is introduced. After the fulguration, the bladder is collapsed, and next day we had fluid in the amniotic cavity. So we will discuss about fetal intervention. So there are 4 techniques which are available: open fetal surgery, fetendo surgery, fetal image guided surgery, and exit procedure. The fetal intervention, very few fetuses will need before birth. And it is not just fetal, but along with that, the maternal intervention also. It is for the benefit of fetus. Mother is innocent bystander who takes the risk for the sake of unborn fetus. And for decision making, all this should be considered: risks versus benefit, health of the mother, ability to have other children, and entire family makeup. So open fetal surgery, it can be done for CCAM, sacrococcygeal teratoma, MNC repair, cervical teratoma, gastroschisis, some heart disease. All this is under research even today. And this is something like this. We do laparotomy on mother, hysterotomy, deliver the area of interest, take out the sacrococcygeal teratoma in this particular picture, repair it, push it back, close the uterus. This is meningomyelocele, delivered, repaired, push it back. The problem of hysterotomy, as we discussed earlier, are there, and if we can avoid, it should be avoided. So what we do today, or a lot of centers are doing today, is fetal endoscopic surgery. It avoids the incision on the uterus. It uses very small endoscope to view fetus. Surgical manipulation are done with very small instruments under the view of fetoscope and ultrasonography. On mother, there are either small cut over the skin like endoscopic surgery, or small incision to expose the uterus and then insertion of endoscope. The second way of doing is the fetendo surgery or fetal endoscopic surgery. It is done for laser ablation in TTTS syndrome. We had done about 3 weeks back in one of the patient, and both mother and both the twins are doing all right. It can be done for cord ligation and division in a cardiac twin. Division of amniotic bands can be done. Fetal endoscopic tracheal occlusion in diaphragmatic hernia, as discussed earlier, can be done. In bladder outlet obstruction, one can do vesicoamniotic shunt or cystoscopic ablation of PU valve or catheterization. So this is the curved sheath with the scope. These are all instruments for the fetoscope. So these are all in the range of 2 to 3 millimeter, everything, and you can do the procedure. The third is fetal image guided surgery. In this, there is no endoscopic view, and entire procedure is carried out under image guidance sonography. On mother, either there is small cut to introduce the instruments, or small incision over abdomen to expose the uterus. It is least invasive to the mother, and all these procedures can be done. Amniocentesis, fetal cord sampling, catheter shunts, bladder, abdomen, chest, depending upon the indication. RFA of cord vessels for anomalies of twins, not useful for severe structural problem which need surgery. It has reduced the incidence of preterm labor, but have not completely eliminated the same. And the last but not least is the exit procedure, ex utero intrapartum procedure. It is done or indicated for airway obstruction, and then one can do resection or put on ECMO. Thank you.